Okay. We'll do it in. Oh, let's do the introduction in the style of musical theatre. Let's go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another E5 podcast. This one is going to be about something different, hopefully. And I have a co-host, and my co-host is the ever-recurring Mr.
Dan Jackson, aka Dan's the Engineer.
So, Dan, this is going to be We're not going to talk about depression or alcoholism or addiction or anything like that. We're going to do a bit of a role play. Because I was thinking about this other day, because I went to one of your business events, build your business events, and it got me thinking.
Okay.
And I thought to myself, well, you're helping business owners, leaders to either build or develop or enhance or improve where their businesses are. But let's do a role play. So I'm going to quit my job next week. I'm not, by the way, but I'm going to quit my job next week, and I want to set up an electrical contracting company.
Okay.
We're just two pals having a chat. What advice would you have for me in how I go setting it up, what I need to do? What advice would you have for me? So, and also all the other people listening out there. Some of them may already have a business and may not have considered some of these things. So what advice would you have for me? I want to set up my own business.
Okay, so
what do I do?
I have so many questions about.
Ask me questions, because this is a role play. Okay, so this is my imaginary plan. Yes, fine, go for it.
So somebody without a plan is just plodding along. They might do well, they might not. But somebody with a plan who has pre-thought, been proactive, is more likely to succeed.
But my plan is I want to set up my own business. That's as far as I've got.
Okay, so you just want to set up your own business. What's the purpose of the business?
Because I'm fed up with working with somebody else, for someone else. So I want to set up my own electrical contracting company, and I want to do electrical installation work because I want to be my own boss.
Who are you going to work for?
I don't know.
So you're going to quit your job?
Yeah.
Without nothing lined up whatsoever?
Well, this is a role play, and we're literally role playing it. So
this is a realistic conversation I have with people on a daily basis, Paul.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. I thought I was just under pressure on a podcast, but okay, that's fine. So I would like to own my own domestic electrical installation company, and I would like to, just put me on under the spot, I would like to build my foundations being a domestic electrical installation company, and eventually build a team of guys and then go into doing industrial. I don't want to do commercial because it's way too it's a nightmare, but I'd like to do industrial, factory, warehouse type fit out. So a domestic and industrial installation company in time. There's my business plan.
So that's not a business plan. That is literally just saying.
There's my business aspiration. Yes, there's my.
So what's your current experience with domestic and industrial installations?
I did an apprenticeship that was a joint domestic and industrial apprenticeship. I have done lots and lots of domestic work, central heating, wiring, metering installation works, all sorts of domestic rewires,
house
rewires, yeah, all that sort of stuff, external supplies, shed supplies, lighting, larger houses, the more luxurious mansion types, multiple central heating installations where you've got 3 or 4 boilers and some quite complex controls. I've done railway stations, depots, industrial buildings, warehouses, factories, flats, council risers.
So you've got the experience now.
Yes.
Have you any experience in quoting work and managing, or project management at all, dealing with clients?
Okay. If I'm putting myself still in the role play, then for this role play, let's say no. Yes, I do, but no. For this role play, no, I don't. But how hard can it be?
Incredibly hard.
Okay. Well,
Incredibly
what
hard.
advice have you
So,
got for me? How do I price a job then?
okay, so you want to own your own company, but you've never priced a job before.
Well, I
So,
kind of, again, role play.
so you've done private work essentially, and
Yeah, yeah, private work.
okay,
£35 like a light, £70 a socket, say, that sort of
okay.
stuff.
So the first thing I have to kind of make you aware of, based on what you've told me about your experience.
Yeah,
Now, um, you may well be a very good electrician. You might
yeah,
know technical knowledge. That's fantastic. You're becoming a business owner. Whether you're a sole trader, whether you're a limited company, you're becoming a business owner. And it's a
okay.
massive mindset alteration to being the electrician who works for somebody, who turns up at work, gets paid their day rate, their hourly rate, or whatever it is that you get. It's not just about the technical competence, it's about the financial, it's about legislation. You have to know marketing, sales, how you run your operations, pricing. It's hard work. It's really hard work, especially if you're jumping literally with no experience whatsoever. If you've never done pricing, it's not impossible. It's achievable, but it is. It's going to be a massive learning curve for you. Huge learning curve.
Is there
The
not like
first,
apps that can help me with that nowadays, or
what? Sorry.
is there not like apps that can help me with pricing of jobs nowadays? Is there a certain rules that help me with pricing?
Well, first of all, you need to know your figures, and you need to know your overheads before
Okay,
anything. Now, look, what a lot of electricians tell me is that they charge. This is the magic number, by the way,
okay,
£250 a day.
yep.
People tell me all the time, that's what I charge, £250 a day, and I'm like, why do you come up with that figure? And they can't answer. They just basically say that's what everybody else is charging. And I'm like, okay, but that's not you. Everybody's overheads are different depending on their circumstance. So it depends what van you get. It depends, who you use with insurance, how much it costs you,
Where
what
you
you pay
live?
yourself.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Insurance.
exactly. Where you are in the UK as well,
Yeah.
massive difference. And also, yeah, where you actually do your work, because we all know in London, to work in London a day, it's like 60 quid before you even earn any money, probably more. So, you need to know your figures. You need to really work out, and because you've never done this before, it is difficult. Now, something I do with my clients is I have got it's kind of like a calculator, which helps prompt you what you might need to outlay to run your business. Now, in the first year of business, it is very, very difficult because there's going to be some startup costs. You're going to have to think about vehicles. You're going to have to think about insurances, accreditation, which obviously you don't get straight away anyway. There's so many things to think about. And first of all, are you going to be a sole trader? Or have you thought about if you're going to be a limited company? Have you thought about that yet?
I was thinking limited company.
Okay, so I would always advise being a limited company over a sole trader, mainly because the difference being if you're a sole trader, you're taking liability financially, if something, well, financially and legally, if something occurs that's not quite right, if it goes wrong. Whereas with a limited company, it's with the company, not you personally.
Right.
So
Okay.
So, for example, if let's say you owe your 60 grand in debt for whatever bad debt, for a job goes wrong, if you're a sole trader, you owe that personally. Whereas, and that can obviously bankrupt you. Whereas as a limited company, I know this isn't right, but you could literally close a company tomorrow, and the debt's with the company, not you personally.
Right. Interesting. Okay. All right. So a limited company then. Yeah. So I'm a one-man band. I need help. I know I'm going limited company. I want to start out small. What advice you got for me for, say, trying to win the clients? Because I know there's a lot of people who've started out. I mean, Thomas Nargi in the industry started out doing YouTube as a way of marketing. now you've got every Tom, Dick, Harry, and everyone else who are doing YouTubing now. I don't know if it's marketing or not.
I,
How
w-
would
I,
you?
w- I would I would say yes. YouTube can work very well because YouTube is basically Google. Google is
Is
the
it?
Yeah, it's basically Google. It's all done
Right.
by
Yeah.
search words. So the two most visited websites in the world
Yeah.
are Google and YouTube. Google being number one, YouTube being number two. YouTube is basically a search engine with videos.
All right. I didn't think of it like that, but yeah. Okay.
So all these YouTuber electricians,
Yeah.
providing they're putting the right keywords in, will rank quite well depending where they are and stuff like that. But on the flip side of it, it shows. I know Luke Witchard, for example, based in Surrey. I've seen him say before that he was doing it to kind of show his clients what he's all about. Now, what you've got to bear in mind is when you're an electrician and you're working in a domestic market, you literally, especially in London, there is so much competition. It is
Yeah.
ridiculous. So you have to stand out from the rest. So how you market yourself and how you brand yourself is really important. So, Paul, I've got a business model which I work with my clients for, and all of the aspects are important, but a lot of people neglect parts of them. So it starts with finance. We've got human resources that occurs even if it's a one-man band. Management,
All
and
right.
again, management is how you manage your clients, how you manage your jobs. Operations, how we do things, how our workflow patterns arise from start to finish. Sales, what do we do to get our work and how do we make them sales? Even though I don't really like using the word sales in electrics, but it's still part of the model. Marketing, individual development, and partnerships. Now, most people will concentrate literally on marketing when they first start out, thinking, what have I got to do to get this work? Shall I do some stuff on Facebook? Shall I do some stuff on, LinkedIn and stuff like that? But really, you need to know your market. You need to know. That's why I said to you, what work are you trying to get into, domestic or industrial? Now, by the way, them two are completely flip sides of the industry.
They are.
So it is actually very difficult to market to both of them at once. It's hard for any company, no matter who it is, even somebody starting out. Now, it's always good to have a niche in what it's fine to generalize in electrical work, but you need to brand and market yourself with a niche.
Yeah, so I was thinking about that. So I was thinking that if I was doing it, again, this is role play, not me being deliberately thick. If I was doing it, I would niche myself as a smart home installer, but also a smart industry installer. So I would look at in the industrial installations, utilizing the smart technology to give real value and data and analytics to the management of the buildings that I was doing the work in, which not a lot of people do. You go in a lot of industrial places, it's just stick lights up, leave them on, job done,
So,
go away.
so already, you've got experience in this because obviously you know about it.
Yeah,
That's your strong point. So we've already recognised one of your strengths. So you know, you might be very technically skilled here at that type of thing, which is great. So we need to kind of brand you and create your branding based on that. So when you're marketing yourself on your website or social media, people need to relate Paul Meenan Electrical Limited or whatever with obviously this smart home technology.
yeah,
Um, and your brand needs to basically sell that the whole time. So do you know what? I've got one client who is a lighting specialist,
okay,
but his branding when he first started out had nothing to do with that. You wouldn't even know. He's just basically something electrical. It doesn't really mean it. I think a
okay,
lot of people when they first start out, they want their name in the company name and stuff like that, which is fine. But
yeah, mean and electrical rings brilliantly to me, but probably not to anybody actually using, unless you've got like, because a lot of people use the name because of the T Clarks of this world. Tommy
yeah,
Clark's. It's named after a bloke, obviously, and they would love their family name to be successful brand in the industry. But then some places will just want really silly names like Aspire or some other weird like The
yeah.
Apprentice type made up name.
I mean, you can have a name that you think it's going to be searched, but the problem is that it could be something like, well, smart home technology, for
Do you know the
example.
best name for a company I ever heard was actually a company called EI's Electrical Installations. They went bankrupt, but it was the best name ever for an electrical company.
Yeah,
They were huge at one point, and sadly, they were so big they went bankrupt. But if that name was still going, I would actually probably use that name because it was a fantastic brand. Electrical Installations. I work for EI's. Great name. Simple, quick, and easy. Um,
yeah,
I don't know if anyone listening actually knows whether that's been resurrected or whatever, but it'd be interesting to know. But
yeah.
yeah, okay. So I've got to learn pricing. Just to step out from the role play, there is actually, for those listening, because we do like to give facts about, there is actually a book called the Spons book, which is used for pricing. It's an industry accepted book, which if you're pricing conduit, trunking, etc., it will give you labour rates. It's updated yearly, and it's the Spons book. You can buy it, and if you buy a published like printed copy, you can actually get a free digital copy that you can put on like your Blue Fire reader on your phone. I have found that to be very handy. And if you're ever doing any industrial commercial pricing or you're asked to tender a job, if when your tender goes in you say it's in line with the SPONS directory, then the commercial people reviewing your price will immediately go, great, it's an industry accepted pricing manual. But that doesn't mean you just follow it blindly, because as you said, Dan, you've still got overheads, you've still got costs. Anyway, back to me being really inexperienced of all this. I just wanted to throw that out there because it's really important for anyone listening if they want the chance to get that book. Okay, so I want to do domestic and industrial.
Yeah.
Um, I might do YouTube.
But
How
but,
do I?
but you,
Go
you might want to do YouTube, but YouTube takes a lot of time. In fact,
Okay, so how do I
marketing.
grow? How do I market my business then? How do I get the customers in the door?
So I honestly believe
Yeah.
one of the most powerful things is a website because you own a website, whereas your social media page you don't. Even your YouTube channel, if they want to shut it down tomorrow, they can. You don't
Yeah, I found
actually.
that out.
Yeah. So, but the way I see it is that social media should it captures the traffic and you push it towards your website because you can control your website, you can do what you want with it, and plus obviously you can rank in searches. Now, if I was to market my own company, I would do some YouTube stuff because I think it's very powerful, but time permitting. But with a website, blog posts are powerful because the more that um, you have new content on your website, i.e., blogs, because you're writing one a week or one every 2 weeks or whatever, providing you've got the right keywords, Google pushes your website up the rankings, providing it's got the right keywords and stuff like that. There is an art and a science to this. But it's about getting traffic to you. So if you could do articles, if there's a new topic that come out, for example, private landlords, electrical testing, for example, if you wrote
Right.
an article on that, a blog post,
Yeah.
and it had the right keywords and was written in the right way, that could capture potential landlords that want to come to your website, check you out, and then they'll see all your services.
Yeah. Okay. So you're writing a thought piece that appeals to potential customers.
Yes, just about getting traffic. Another thing, Paul,
Yeah.
podcasts. Honestly,
Podcasts. So yes, me and Electrical, please employ us to do domestic and industrial. I need to get a jingle, don't I? Okay. So one of the other chaps who came on this podcast, just going back to host mode, um, Luke Wichard, he would go around leaflet dropping in his local area, and he seems to
Yeah.
never not be out of work, if that makes sense. He's very tactical on his. He's my trusted trader as well, isn't he? Which is he's registered with the it's my trusted trader or trusted trader or whatever it is, and he seems to get a lot of work from that because they got quite robust checking systems. We know there are a couple of other like Checker Trade and all the rest of it where they seem to just get you in and take your money, and a lot of people seem to walk away from them after a while because they don't see any value in it.
See, checker trade.
Yeah.
Um, I've have experience with checker trade, and it worked quite well for me personally.
Okay.
But you have to play it, as in when I say play it, what they want you to do is to get reviews in.
Right.
But I was in a position where I had a good team of people. I could easily get reviews in because we was doing 10 jobs a day. So getting the reviews in was quite simple. If you're doing rewires, for example, and it's 2 weeks a job or something like that, and you can only get one rewire in, one review in every 2 weeks, you don't get pushed up the rankings because it's all about getting the reviews in on a regular basis. And again,
That's a lot.
My guess there is purely because it ranks them up higher on Google's searchability on search engines when they get new regular sort of web content and reviews and stuff. So
there's a lot to learn, isn't there, with all this?
This honestly, it's an absolute minefield. And
it is a minefield. Yeah.
So what people tend to do, Paul, and bear in mind, I've been working with a lot of guys in this position where they're a very good electrician and they set up their own business. They soon realise that actually they need a fuck ton of money, and the reason you need money is because you need to save for a rainy day as an electrical contractor because of the way the industry is, and if you get a bit of a late payment or something like that, you need to allow for it. Also, you might have a van that has a problem one day.
You need to allow, don't you?
Yeah, you need to have the funds, and without the funds, you basically you've got it increases stress and pressure if you haven't got the funds there to cope with it.
So what you're saying is starting up a business is very hard, very high risk. You've got to know what you want. You've got to do all your research. You've got to understand your audience, know where you're marketing, do very targeted things to bring in the punters, and have a pot of money for a rainy day in case you get shoved. Do you know what that reminds me of saying? It's probably worth putting in this podcast. I was talking to a very dear friend the other day. I hadn't spoken to him in years. He set up his own electrical contracting company in the UK. Let's put it like that. Him and his brother, and he basically got approached by another organisation to buy his business. Long story short, they bought his business. He got to work in some nice prestige projects for 12 months. After 12 months, the relationship went sour. The guy who bought his business took all his best men and basically brought the rest in and sacked all of them, and took his brand, his business, everything, and chucked him out the door.
Yeah,
absolutely incredible. And he'd killed himself for over 2 years trying to build his business. Thought he got lucky with someone who wanted to really give him a foot up, and the bloke gave him a foot up, threw him over the wall, and kept everything. Yeah, and ripped him off.
Okay, so two things you really need to pay attention for when you get into business: a good accountant and a good lawyer.
Oh, Jesus.
Okay. Now, accountants, what people tend to do is they go, oh yeah, I found this accountant, and all the accountant is really is a data inputter, which basically you give them a load of information when it's due, and they put it into the system and tell you what you've got to pay. Now, to me, that is absolutely fucking pointless, because A, you could do it yourself, but financial, working out your finances, you have to be proactive. Now, what a lot of people do is go on their finances based on what's in their bank, but that's not actually accurate, because it doesn't really show you what's got to come out. It just shows you what's in the bank right now. You shouldn't really be looking at that figure. So what you should be looking at is your software, your accounting software. Now, if you start out in business, what some people do is have some Excel spreadsheets as invoices. Pointless, utterly pointless. What you need is an accounting package. Now, I recommend Xero. There are others out there like Zoho Books, QuickBooks, There's loads out there, but Zero to me just kind of I think is really really good. But it is a little bit more expensive than some as well. And it see the thing is it doesn't just do invoicing. You can put your expenses into, you can put your overheads, you can put your wages into, and you can look at different reports that tell you how much you've got to pay in the next month, 2 months, 3 months. So you can be proactive about it.
What's it called? Zero.
Zero, Xero. It's very good.
Can you use that for general day-to-day accounting as well?
Yeah, it's accountancy package.
Okay,
So
I have to remember that one.
So I've the best accountants are the accountants that work with you and run through your financials on a regular basis. And Paul,
Okay.
you pay for it, but it's worth it because when you first start up, they're going to ask you, do you want to register for this? Do you want to register for that? How do you want to pay yourself? Now, as when you're first out in business, you ain't got a clue what you want to do. So you need somebody who needs to kind of have your interests at heart. And what a lot of accountancy companies do is treat everybody the same, which is wrong. Everybody's got individual needs, desires, different business plan, different ideas. So the accountant really needs to work with you and help you. And I might say to my accountant, look, I'm thinking about getting a new car. This is what I'm thinking. What do you reckon? And he'll say, well, the tax implications of that are X, Y, and Z. What I recommend is that you do this, and then you offset that, and you do that, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, do everything above board. But they'll help you instead of like doing something that you think is right and then realizing that actually that's just cost you £5 a year when it shouldn't have. So, accountancy has to be really proactive. Now, the legal side, your mate, for example, got completely screwed over. A lot of electrical contractors are really scared about getting legal. Now, if you've never done contracting before, right, here's the news, right? Legalities are inevitable when it comes to contracting. At some point in your career, you're going to come across where you're being taken to court or you're taking someone to court, and it's fucking stressful if you've never done it before. But this is where the mindset changes from electrician earning a wage, whether you're self-employed, employed, or whatever, to business owner, right? You can't let the business believe the business is you. All it is a couple of letters you strung together with a fancy name, meaning electrical, that you've registered at company's house to pay tax. And while we're on the talk of tax, don't take cash, as in take cash and put it in your pocket and don't pay tax. Fucking pointless. It's ridiculous. Okay, you're running a business. If you're running a business, you do things properly. So we get serious, right? VAT register, being VAT registered is a massive topic for some. Now, the threshold on VAT registration is £85,000 a year. Now, Paul, if you work things back, right, £85,000 plus how much do you want to pay yourself, plus your overheads, plus materials in a job, for a one-man band, it's quite easily to achieve 85k in a year.
Yeah, it is, easily.
And the ones who aren't generally are taking cash, or they're not actually working that much, which is fine if some people don't want to work, to earn that, and they can live on less, or however they're living their life, that's absolutely fine. But generally speaking, if you're trying to grow a business, 85k is quite easily achievable with one man. So so again, you got to think about this, because if you're VAT registered, you're going to not appeal to the domestic market as much because you're 20% more than anybody else who isn't. So you've got to make a conscious decision from the start, really. Do you want to be VAT registered or not? And that's why I say when you're going for the domestic market and for the industrial market, they're completely different. So, but the domestic market, I know electricians, Paul, who are charging £400 a day and they're VAT registered. So that's an extra, what's that?
On top, yeah.
Yeah, 20%, £8 on top. They're charging it and they get it. They do get it.
Yeah, I think if you're billing VAT when you're working for certain companies, they'll just pay it. It's a no-brainer for them. They just pay it anyway. It's just a default thing.
No, but I'm also talking consumers. Some consumers will pay that as well, depending on how you dress up your figures and stuff like that. But yeah.
But then some people listening to this will also immediately screaming at the radio saying, I wouldn't make any money. I couldn't be a sole trader if I was charging VAT, because that's just an unfair tax on homeowners who I work for, and they won't pay it.
I agree. Yeah, totally. But that's
It's an
why,
hard balance, isn't it?
and that's why, Paul, if it were me, and this is just purely my personal opinion,
Opinion, yeah, yeah.
I wouldn't go domestic at all, personally, because the type of work I'd want to do is commercial,
Industrial, yeah.
industrial. So, straight away, VAT isn't a problem. The domestic market is very, very, very difficult because the consumer is generally not very clued up, and consumers treat electrical services like products. They try and compare apples and pears
Oh
together.
God, yeah, they do. Yeah, without a doubt.
Um,
Without a doubt.
Having said that, there's some. I mean, there's some amazing domestic electricians out there who have a very good career, very good, earn very well, and do very well, do very well out of it. There's,
Some
yeah,
of them are podcast hosts with us now.
exactly, and that's the market they know they want to do. Personally, it's not my bag. Having said that, I have done it. I have done it in the past. I think getting working when you haven't got clients lined up is very difficult.
Yeah, building the client base, isn't it? It's because if you change someone's consumer unit, how much repeat work do you get from that? Although guys who've been trading for a number of years always say that they have a loyal client base, the likes of Luke Witchard, Lee Wards, they have people who regularly come back to
Yeah,
them and say, I mean, I was talking to someone the other day, we're actually on a job, we were setting it out, and I said, look, what's your scope of work? And they said, it's this, and this. And I said, well, you'll be back in 6 months installing power supplies for like projectors, and you'll be back again doing this and that. And they were
yeah,
like, oh, yeah, that's a good point. Just make passive provision for all of it then. That way you're not making a rod for your own back.
yeah. Repeat work is really important, really, really important because you haven't got to vet that client again.
Yeah.
Um, so again, personally, just my opinion, I would always be aiming at work that is repeat work. Project work, obviously, larger projects, you can, turnover, it will increase your turnover, but sometimes profits aren't as great. Whereas the profit margins are better on smaller jobs a lot of the time, but then there can be a lot of management time required to run them. And there's ways to do it efficiently with software and apps and stuff like that. So it's just to be a bit conscious about that. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of
So
costs.
use apps and try and find a marketplace, maybe write some blogs to do some engagement. Um, I think one of the hardest things, if we can talk about the elephant in this particular room, is, I mean, I've had some bad experiences with accountants who
Yeah,
have totally
likewise.
just screwed me over, just because they expected me to do a load of work that they never told me that they needed me to do. So I didn't know I had to do it. It's the old I didn't know sort of thing. The more you get older, the more you realise tax is an incredibly complicated beast, and it takes only a finite full-time expert to understand tax and tax laws, and what is taxable a benefit or yeah, it's just a nightmare. Um, it would be fair to say though, a lot of people when they start doing self-employment, they do go in low. They start trying to build their base by basically just doing jobs at cost.
Yeah, right. So I've got I had a guy first come to me for some business coaching, and basically he was a right old mess. Like he didn't have any work. He was pricing himself well too cheap. And the thing is, Paul, I think people are scared because they want the work. However, this maybe is a bit of a learning process as a business owner, but it's very important. And I like to highlight this to people from the start. You need to know your worth from the start. If you're charging yourself at, well, you're prostituting yourself out at a very low rate, you attract that type of client. Whereas if you charge a decent price from the outset, but you have to give that value, that's the type of client that you'll attract. And what I
Which
mean is by attracting the right client is you have to give off this impression that you're this professional company so you can justify your £400 a day or whatever it is you want to charge. But if you
but
turn up in tatty clothing, you're very unprofessional on the phone, you're very unreliable, then maybe you're not worth that money.
But I know of some clients who will go to electricians and say, well, I only want you on a day rate, labour only, and then I'll go and buy the materials and you fit it. It makes it very difficult because there are clients out there who want to save as much money as they can. And the electricians are like, well, I need to earn as much as I can, obviously, because you've got family to feed, bills to pay. And they'll take these awkward positions that they're put in. And then once they get started, the person ordering the work will turn and say, well, no, I don't want that, or you've been too slow on this, or I'm not really happy with that. And then this is where the electricians have got to keep their wits about them as well.
And get legal. This is the thing, Paul. Having terms and conditions and knowing the legalities of these sorts of things are really important. It's not something that you can learn very easily. It mainly comes from experience. But again, you have to be very clear with terms, whether it's their terms or your terms, whoever you're working for. You have to be very, very clear and understand them. And
yeah, I don't disagree. I was giving someone some advice the other day about a situation they were in, and my words were basically to be firm but fair from day one, in writing, in the spirit of trust and cooperation, because that's a term used in most contracts, and just set out the stall, where basically you then create an evidence portfolio, where you can, if you have to take someone to small claims court, you can then at least have half a chance in front of a judge to say you took reasonable steps to ensure the money was there, the cooperation was there. Because remember, when you're working as an electrical contractor, and this is the hardest thing so many contractors don't get, you have to be the duty of care to the client, because the client won't understand. And if they think you're after more money, then you need to have a tailored approach that says, look, I'm doing this piece of work, there isn't a design, or the design isn't complete, there's a risk here, it's going to cost you more money for the following reasons. We need this information because you're going to be non-compliant, or I can take it on for an additional sum of money. And if you won't give it the work to me, then I've got a problem, because I need to certify these systems to 5839 7671, and I can't do that unless I've got control of the design and the installation, unless somebody else has signed off on the design. And I see so many places where you walk in and you just go, where's the design? And everyone just goes, what? And it's an architect drawing of what it visually should look like.
Oh, completely.
And there's absolutely jack shit design other than put some lights in. We think they've got to look like that, but who cares? I see that way too much. Way too much.
The whole thing's a learning curve, really. And it can be very stressful. Obviously, this is such a broad topic because every client's different, every contractor's different, every situation is different, every sector is different.
If you're in the contracting world and you're doing JCT contracts and NEC and ICE contracts, then they're a whole different world of fish. I actually prefer JCT and NEC contracts. We'll probably do a podcast on them one day at some point, because when you go into the big industrial world, you do have to sign up to formal contracts. Now, if you're a subby of a subby of a subby, just be wary out there. If you subcontract for some guy on a major, massive project, whether you like it or not, he probably is back to all the terms and conditions straight down to you.
Yeah.
And that's one of the scary things, because you won't know any of this. You'll get someone, and I've seen this before, someone ring up on a major project, I won't name it, and basically they were, let's get this right, subby of a subby of a subby of a subby of a subby, so 5 or 6 layers down. They'd done a fit out, no real design, although there was a design, but it hadn't worked its way through the 5 layers. It was a complete balls up. It wasn't done correctly. It was a domestic install in an industrial environment which weren't going to work, and it was delaying the job. Now, this poor contractor could have absolutely been destroyed, bankrupted out of oblivion, because all they would have done is took all the program delay charges and lumped it at the contractor, and he would have just dropped it all the way down the ladder to this poor bloke who was basically there on £250, £300 a day, assuming he's labour only, and he's not.
Yeah.
And that's the sort of stuff that can and does happen. So I think,
and these big these main contractors, and I suppose subcontractors to them, they fucking know all this.
Of course they do.
They do it on purpose because they're just preying on the weak.
Yes, without a doubt.
They do it. So, but something I think can fill a few gaps in the beginning when you first start out is actually subcontracting to other companies. But
Start
I
small.
yeah, start small and sort of work your way up. But I would never aim to solely subcontract forever with one company.
No, it's
If
got
it's
you've got to build your confidence, haven't you? You've got
yeah,
to start if you're going to dip your toe in the water, dip your toe in the water in the right way. Build your confidence. Subcontracting for a company who are decent, who are not going to throw you under the bus, who can work with you, and then the minute you've got that rapport, start looking for another client. And then
exactly.
before you
And
know it, you've got 3 or 4 loyal sub guys you can sub for while you're building that knowledge. And remember, when you're working with them, you go into sponge mode. You absorb all the knowledge, all the behaviours, and everything you can that's good that can benefit you and your confidence in running your business.
do you know one thing I've done for a long time, Paul, is
So,
reflection. So at the end of the
okay,
week, I will reflect what I learned that week with my business or people I've worked with or something like that. Reflection.
okay,
And it's exactly that, absorbing like a sponge, just reflecting on what I've learned that week. Um, and I think it's important because making the same mistake twice is pointless. You should never
yeah,
do that.
definition of madness, isn't it? Yeah, I know.
Yeah, 100%. So
And yet, lots of business owners do it.
yeah, they do. They constantly do it. I mean, it's very easy for me to say do this, do that, blah blah blah, but every business is completely different, literally completely different. So you first of all you need to know who you want to work for, your market, and how you're going to get in there. Now, if you've got no network whatsoever or no potential client, you're an absolute madman just dropping your well-paid job to go and set up your business unless you've got loads of money and you've done your research, you've got a business plan, and you're
Well, call my alternate ego mad then. It just shows it's a labyrinth, though, doesn't it? It's an absolute labyrinth. When people have asked me, I've always said, if you want to go self-employed, yes, do it because you've obviously got the passion and drive to want to do it. But go in, work as a subcontractor for an established company, learn from them, make your mistakes, build your relationships, understand your supply chain, what you want to do, how you want to do it, get your skills, your knowledge polished, go from a rough diamond to a polished diamond. Eventually, what you'll end up doing is you'll end up winning your own clients, winning your own work, building your own confidence,
yeah,
bringing your men along with you, but getting a loyal team of people. We know people that have got companies where their companies would fail miserably if it wasn't for the loyalty of the men. They look after the men, they look after them properly,
yeah, yeah, definitely.
financially, spiritually, all the rest of it. They look after them. The biggest challenge of our industry is I know electricians that have turned up on the job, agency guys, to help support other permanent electrical contractors. And the first thing you get out the electrician's mouth is, "What's the deal?" And they'll be like on £150 for the shift for 8 hours a shift, say, or a 7 hour shift. And they'll turn up and go, "Great, now I'm here, I'm getting paid my money regardless. Now, what are you going to pay me to actually put in a day's work?" So
Yeah.
they want more money on top of that. And that is sadly one of the big problems in industrial and major projects where the
Well,
guys unionize and start just
it
trying to get as
creates
much money as they can.
it also creates really bad morale in a company because I see it a lot of the time when you've got PAYE guys on a company, there might be 10 of them. You get some subbies on from an agency who are actually paid far more than what the PAYE guys are, and they can do half the work. They're actually useless. Um, and it just creates this massive poor because we know, Paul, the guys on site, they all talk about how much they earn and
Oh yeah, I'm on a more hours than him. He's on. I
yeah,
remember one bloke. If he found out anyone was on 10 pence more than him an hour, he would go to the managing director and threaten to resign
yeah,
until he was on a penny more than this other bloke per hour. It was that petty. They had nothing else to do, and that's one of the dangers in industrial. It can be quite quiet and boring waiting around for works to start, and sparks can become their own worst enemy. I do not miss site cabins on industrial. I miss some of the banter, I miss some of the characters, but I do not miss the gross sycophants that you can encounter in industrial work because some of them are just very toxic, nasty human beings that just shouldn't be employed, in my opinion. Some of them.
but the thing is there'll be someone else who actually likes that,
Yeah.
not the toxic side, but likes that route in, and
Yeah.
probably have a very good business out of it.
Yeah. Well, I think the electrical industry is in a point now where there's so much work that needs to be done and not enough skills to do it. If you know what you're doing, you're touch wood, you're not going to be out of work.
Yeah,
The
Paul,
trouble is, there's
honestly,
tons of people who don't know what they're doing as well.
I get a lot of sort of guys come to me and they're a bit disheartened by how crap some of the standards are and stuff like that. And I say, look at the plus side. It's really not that difficult to
Yeah.
create a good reputation. And there's work out there. Literally, I know loads of guys that they don't have to do much to get a lot of work because it's like, oh, he's an electrician. Oh, let's give him a chance because they can't get hold of somebody else or whatever. It's not that difficult to actually start getting the work, really.
It isn't. It isn't. Although I do think the industry's going to have to start tightening its belt quite a lot and regulating on people, because I think there are definitely people doing electrical installation work that shouldn't be doing it. And I don't mean newcomers into the industry. I mean, I know, listen, I've met people who, when I was an apprentice, who'd been in the industry 30, 40 years, and I wouldn't let them touch a screwdriver. I
Yeah,
just wouldn't let them touch a screwdriver.
yeah,
And you need to be wary as a business owner that when you're bringing new people in to help you build, vet them. If you're going to look after them and go on a journey with them, vet them.
yeah.
Um,
You have to have competence at the forefront of what you do. Otherwise, if you don't do that, Paul, you create a business risk. And that could be financial, it could be death. You could kill somebody without, the right competency. But competency isn't just what you know technically as an electrician. It's also financial because you could be fined.
Financial competence, risk competence,
Yeah,
business
and
competence. Yeah, I know.
this is the point. If you're not competent in a field, you have a choice. You either remain incompetent and run the risk, or you get somebody in who is competent. And that's a great thing about outsourcing and getting, a professional in. Yes, you have to pay for it, but can you afford not to have them?
I
Is the
think
question, really.
competence in any trade is very much like a muscle in your body. If you exercise it and stretch it and you feed it well, it will look after you. If you don't exercise it and use it regularly, it will just shrink and turn fat and be pretty much useless and stiff and sore.
Yeah.
So I think it's the same with any form of competence. But yeah, you're right there. And my alternate ego has decided not to go self-employed, although if
Self-employed or a business owner, Paul?
business owner,
There's a big
business owner.
difference.
Yeah, I know there is. Yeah, you're right. There is. Business owner. I think I've done self-employed sparking, agency, and all the rest of it. It was just giving other people money to do not much admin. And I thought I was, I was living the dream. But yeah, business owner. I think this time, to be honest with you, if I was ever to, well, I mean, at the moment, I wouldn't go as a business owner for an electrical contractor, but this is just hypothetical, of course.
Yeah.
There's a lot of challenges. Maybe there's probably more that the industry bodies can be doing to help them. I think the ECA do quite a bit, trying to help, but you've got to be a member of the ECA, and that costs money.
It's not that much, though, really. These things aren't, in the grand scheme of
It's
things.
proportionate to your turnover, though, isn't it?
Exactly. And,
Yeah.
even the, the CPSs, it's not that much, Paul, really, in the grand scheme of things of what.
So if you win a £20 million contract, leave immediately because they want all your money. No, no, it doesn't work like that. But yeah, it's difficult. But for me, yeah, if I was ever to set up an electrical contractor, it would be a business, not self-employed. It would be setting up a business to invest. And I'm a firm believer of, and I've worked in enough companies to know this now. If you invest in the people around you, I mean the good ones who actually give a shit,
Yeah.
then they'll be loyal back. They'll be loyal back.
Yeah, 100%.
Simple as that, really. Most blokes, when they go to work, are loyal to their pockets and their bank balances because they have to be for their families. And that's something key as well that people need to consider when they're actually bringing people in. If you bring in subbies, you need to be very mindful that if you bring in a couple of lads to do a job and you're pushing your business boundaries, those two guys can absolutely cripple you if you don't approach them right and engage them right and pay them right and do all the necessary checks on them. So it's complex.
You definitely have to have and set out a clear understanding with the people that work for you from day one. And I make it very clear. The guys that work for me, I literally say, look, you look after me, I'll look after you. It's that simple. If you want to fuck me around, guess what's going to happen to you? Like it's literally that straightforward. And you have to be very blunt with people, because there are a lot of piss takers out there. But I've I've always treated, well, I say always, towards the latter years, I've always treated people with compassion, and I get a lot more out of people due to that. But trust me, that compassion isn't weakness at all. It's just a very clear understanding between two people. This is what I expect from you. What do you expect from me? Cool. You get what you want. I get what I want.
Seems fair enough. Seems fair enough. You've given us loads to think about. Now, is it fair to do a little plug here? Because I think it's getting on, and we probably should wind this down because people may be falling asleep listening to this. You never know. Apologies if you found this one slightly not to your taste, but hey, we want to cover as many subjects as possible. Dan, you have a website. You do business coaching as a consultancy role. It's one of your passions, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah.
You've given me a lot to think about. You've also given my alternative ego, who we've been role playing, a lot to think about as well. Any last words of advice before we wind this one up?
I just think when you run a business, you have to think about the bigger picture. It's not all about money. Don't treat it all about money. It's the bigger picture. It's about the people that work for you, yourself, lifestyle. We don't have to work like absolute dogs throughout our whole life.
So if you are working for someone who is thinking minute by minute by minute by minute, they may not be a sound investment for you and your mental health and your own personal and business growth.
Yeah, that's it. You look after yourself, everything on your outer side gets looked after too.
Fair enough. Okay, all right. Well, we'll leave this here. Dan, please come back and do some more. I tell you what, for anyone listening, if you have any thoughts or feelings or requests or questions, please go onto our YouTube page and subscribe there and leave a comment below, because I think that's quite a good place to put repository of comments, or info@e5group.org.uk. We're on Twitter, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. If you just send us a message, or you contact Dan's the engineer on Twitter, Facebook, and everything else, and just drop us a message. If there's anything more advice you could possibly want, or you want to attend one of Dan's seminars, Dan's, you've got a website where all your dates will be on that eventually in the upcoming months.
My website is developmybusiness.com.
Developmybusiness.com. Okay, there you go. So developmybusiness.com. Brilliant. Dan, I've attended one of your events, which has been good fun. And if you want to hear more, please let us know. If you have any ideas or thoughts for future podcasts, we've got a book full of different ideas and different guest hosts coming. So until the next time, Dan, thank you very much.
Cheers. Thanks a lot.
And until the next one, take care of yourself and each other. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.